What's up? Welcome in. Hoge and Jahns minus the Hoge part of this podcast. Again, welcome in the Fishman, Kevin Fishbain, live from Mobile, Alabama. Kevin, what is going on?
Johnsy, it's Senior Bowl week. It is the unofficial start of draft season. And as I said to some of my reporter brethren out here, this is really the Bears' regular season. And it has been for the past decade plus. That this is when things get interesting. This is when things get fun.
Did they laugh at that joke?
Yeah, they did. They did.
They get it. But there's a lot of teams like that.
Yes. Yeah. And all those teams wish they had the resources the Bears have.
True. True. That's like the unofficial, like coaching circuit, right? If you're looking for a job, is that still the case where coaches are hanging out trying to make connections?
Yeah, I have heard of a couple coaches who are down here just networking. Actually, a fun story about that, Johns, with the Bears connection is for folks who see my story, it's up on Thursday. I talked to Justin Hines, the assistant defensive line coach of the Bears, who's coached the defensive line here. And he told me, 5 or 6 years ago, he came to the Senior Bowl. He was working at Samford University. He's like, I don't know anybody in the NFL really, and I'm just trying to figure out who I can talk to. That's what these guys do. They come down, they're just like, who can I talk to? It's networking for them because all these NFL coaches, GMs are here. So these college coaches are people who are in between jobs, and it was kind of cool for him because now he's in it. Now he's the guy in the Bears gear on the field. So yeah, this is still a little bit of an unofficial coaching convention.
Yeah, of course, we have our famous story of watching Sean Desai interview with Mark Trestman. Sean Desai went on to be a defensive coordinator in this league. You know the deal, everybody. HoganJahns.com for all the merch. Thank you to Obvious Shirts. As always, you can read Kevin and I on theathletic.com. He is down in Mobile covering the Senior Bowl all week. Got good stuff already up, good stuff coming up, right? Something on Carrie Joseph to tease.
Yeah, we got stories up on, as I said, I'm sorry, Thursday. Some observation. I talked to a few of the centers. John's the offensive line coach down here is Bears tight ends coach Jim Dre. So I was curious what that was like for the offensive linemen. So I chatted with them about that. And then I will have a story coming up probably maybe Monday. That's just kind of a recap of everything Bears related, things I heard, things I saw.
Gossip.
Get to know
Love the
the
gossip.
coach. Yeah. So a lot of gossip, a lot of rumors.
Can you give
And
us a
you know
nugget
what?
yet? Like anything
Well,
semi juicy?
here's
Don't give us the lead, but what do you got?
no, I mean, here's the thing. It's the second year in a row down here where like the Bears are the topic. Like people are coming to me and being like, you got a busy offseason ahead. Whoa, like this is wild.
Yeah.
But there isn't a whole lot of what are they going to do with the number one pick? Like they're just, and like, this isn't Ryan Poles, these aren't Bears people. This is just other people who are putting themselves in the Bears' shoes. And they, they're kind of like, this is what I would do.
They would take Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
We'll
not
save
not a
that for next week.
yeah, not a consensus, but that was, when you're talking gossip, like last year, I feel like there was a little bit more of like intrigue and a little bit more like there haven't been as many conversations about Justin Fields this year as there were last year. Because I think last year there was still this like, what's next for him?
Yeah. So when you say
Having gotten
consensus, is that what the Bears should do at quarterback with the first pick, or does that still involve maybe what's next for Fields?
That's just what the Bears should do, like with the first pick. And and I think this will be kind of fun for you and me to go through this journey where like, all right, in a month when we're at the combine, how consensus is that conversation going to be? And then after the combine, when we're at the owners meetings, then what's it going to be? Like, so I think that I'm still keeping an open mind that this is going to ebb and flow a little bit, to use your favorite phrase. But
I'm
like, so
trying to
right
retire
now,
that one. It's ebbs
yeah,
and flows. Get it right.
ebbs
And I'm
and
trying to
flows.
retire that phrase.
So right now, February 1st, to echo what Dane Brugler wrote in his mock draft a few weeks ago, right now, like when you talk to whether it's agents or other people who work for other teams, they're kind of like they don't think there's a much of a question. Not a
I don't
full
want the
consensus, but
yeah,
most
yeah.
people.
I don't want this podcast to be about specifically those scenarios because I feel like we've already talked about them and we're going to continue to talk about them for until the draft. But how different was it for you to step out of the Chicago bubble where you have such a nauseating back and forth about what to do with Justin Fields in the first pick? And now you're in this NFL bubble. All the teams are there. The reporters who cover those teams are there. Like, how different of a vibe has that been for you?
Yeah, it's a little different because I said there are, it wasn't a full consensus. I mean, there's still some people I talked to that, you know, see the benefit as we've talked about a lot of trading back, keeping Fields. You build up your resources. You still have capital for next year's draft, things like that. Um, but I just think that you're not talking to Bears fans. You're talking to people who are putting on their GM caps. It's kind of the best way to describe it. And they have a little bit more tunnel vision about, contracts and roster building, and they might not be sitting in Soldier Field when Justin Fields turns a would-be sack into a 40-yard run. Or, so I mean, saying so it's a like the emotions out of it, which is good. And also, you can argue that those people aren't in the building where people in the Bears have all this knowledge about Justin Fields too. So, it's an out of town opinion, which I think is worthwhile, but it's just we always have to kind of remember that.
All right, there's some players I want to talk specifically about down there. Before we get to that, let's stay with the Bears coaching staff. Looks like Flus has joined Ryan Poles down there. I saw a picture of him. I think it was probably Nick Moriano with his super phone. Sunglasses are on. Hair's looking good. Looks ready to go. Standing in the end zone talking to Carrie Joseph. At least that's the picture I saw. You talked to Carrie Joseph. It's going to play an important role on what's next at quarterback. Give us your takeaways.
You ready for the new acronym?
Yes, I saw this.
DTA. Decision, timing, accuracy. That's Kerry Joseph's big thing. Got to make good decisions, got to have good timing, got to be accurate. So we did chat with Kerry Joseph on Tuesday. He's coaching the quarterbacks. He's not coaching Penix and Nix. He has Spencer Rattler, Joe Milton, Michael Pratt, and he did say he talked to Justin Fields. He introduced himself to Justin Fields at a phone call. Talked to Tyson Bagent as well. Wouldn't get into
And Nate
obviously,
Peterman, I saw, right?
and Nathan Peterman, yes.
Oh,
Wasn't going to get into anything about Caleb Williams or Fields evaluation wise, but when you talk to him about what he looks for in a quarterback, obviously it's that DTA, but he talked a lot about what Ryan Poles talked about. You got to know the person. They've got to be a leader. You want them to have some swagger. You've got the quote up, right? About because I don't want, but
I do.
it's
You want me
funny
to
'cause
read
he
it?
did it. Yeah, go ahead. Read the quote.
Here's the quote. What Kerry Joseph looks for in a quarterback: arm talent, accuracy, delivery quickness, physicality, toughness, swagger. You got to have a little swag playing the QB position. You got to have confidence. And I like to say arrogance. I love that. I absolutely love that he added that part at the end. I don't know why when I saw that quote, read that quote, like my first, like I thought of Vic Fangio when he was describing how Patrick Mahomes plays. He plays with an athletic arrogance. Remember that?
Yep.
Like, and I don't know what you thought of it. You were there. Like, what are you thinking in the moment when he's describing this? Like, I'm picturing Caleb Williams.
Well, what's funny is when I think it was Nick Moriano who posted the quote, I think half the people responded with a picture of Caleb Williams, and the other half responded with a picture of Justin Fields. Because not like Justin Fields is short of some of those qualities.
He's not short on physicality. He's not short
Yeah,
on toughness. He's not short on swagger. But there's two words in there: delivery quickness.
true.
Not exactly his strength.
No, and yeah, you think about Caleb, and you think about how much he lines up with that. Uh, yeah, it's funny because like it took him a while. Like he didn't, you'd ask him what do you look for in a quarterback, and he knew he didn't want to give anything away, but like you're the quarterback coach, like that's important. We want to know what you look for. So, he'll be part of that evaluation. And Ryan Poles is going to lean on everybody, and he's going to want Kerry Joseph's full evaluation of Justin Fields and full evaluation of Caleb Williams and Drake May and Jaden Daniels, and JJ McCarthy and all these guys. So yeah, I think that for this offense, yeah, I asked him too about Shane Waldron's scheme and kind of what it can do for quarterbacks, and I think he gave a lot of credit to Shane. Just Waldron's is one of those guys who can scheme things up. And it made it seem like he'll make it work whoever the quarterback is, which is what you want. That's the best play callers are the ones that can draw it up regardless of skill set. By the way, quick tease, I got a story up on Shane Waldron that went up Monday about his
Good stuff.
first offensive coordinator job at a high school in Boston, outside Boston, 13 years ago, where he had to take a drop back offense and turn it into a quarterback run offense in like a week. Kind of a fun story. But
Options.
yeah, it's yeah, you're yes. When I was staying there and he said that, the first thing I did think of was Caleb Williams.
Even with his acronym, DTA.
DTA, decision, timing, accuracy. Yeah. I mean, you've seen Caleb Williams. I mean, you saw him at one of his worst games in person. I know we're going to talk about him a lot over the next few months, but that accuracy is pretty impressive.
The accuracy is. Now you could debate how he plays on time. I think, as we talked to Dane a couple weeks ago, like he tends to play. He tends to want to play like a superhero out there. But I think it's the same thing with Justin Fields. We're having the conversations 3 years into his career about playing on time, playing with his feet. In terms of having his feet on time with his reads and whatnot. That's still a discussion 3 years into Justin Fields' career, which is a bit different than a rookie coming in. I love, like, one of my favorite things about the Bears coaching search, which is now coming to complete fruition here. I like that Shane Waldron is like bringing in his own guys with him. I said this on Waddle and Sylvie yesterday. Like, I've said it on the show, and we've talked about it. I never liked that Matt Nagy brought nobody with him from Kansas City. Shane Waldron is bringing two coaches with him from Seattle, and he's reuniting with Thomas Brown as his passing game coordinator, who was getting head coaching interviews earlier this year with the Tennessee Titans. He's obviously the offensive coordinator, or the former offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. What do you think of that? Like, I love that there seems to be a belief in Waldron that these guys want to work with him.
Yeah, and I will say this too before I forget. Well, the one nugget I got from talking to somebody in the league about the Bears coaching staff was high grades for Thomas Brown. Like that was a good hire. And you laid it out there. I mean, obviously the league thinks highly of him. But yeah, it's a great point about Matt Nagy. We're sitting there combing through the Chiefs coaching roster, figuring out who he's going to bring over, and it was nobody.
Zero.
And yeah,
Luke Getsy
and
didn't bring, like, what was his one connection?
Tim Zetz
I was going to say
probably
David
cost
Walker.
probably cost Tim Zetz his job.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a lie. I forgot about that
Yeah.
connection. But it's not like he's
Um,
bringing a quarterback's coach with him. He had to connect with Andrew Janocko, who had 1 year of experience doing it for the Vikings.
right. Now those two went back to their Pitt days, but I know, yes, they'd not coached together.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I like this. I mean, you Shane Waldron built something in Seattle. That's a big reason that the Bears brought him in, and so Kerry Joseph doesn't need to learn what Shane Waldron likes. Thomas Brown doesn't need to learn what Shane Waldron likes. Your new running backs coach. The interesting thing is the Chris Morgan element of all this, right? Because but Chris Morgan worked with Kyle Shanahan for a long time. He was on the staff with McVay in Washington, and then McVay obviously gets paired up with Waldron. So like there are some commonalities there that should work.
Well, you just think about like in terms of creating that environment for a quarterback, whether it's Justin Fields or a rookie. Matt Nagy had to teach his offense to Mark Helfrich. As much as Nagy valued Helfrich's experience with the RPOs, it's like why Helfrich was on Matt Nagy's radar, right? Because of that experience. He had to teach him what he wanted to do. Same thing applied to Harry Heastan in a sense, who was essentially hired because of his former connections with Ted Phillips. So I just like the idea of having a lot of guys on the same page from the start, especially if they go down the road of drafting a young quarterback where you have all these guys speaking the same language, who are used to working with each other, who like working with each other. You can't underrate that because we saw how things can sour quickly with the Chicago Bears. So I don't know. I don't know what's the vibe down there in Mobile. I know I'm asking you a lot about what's going on down there, but you have a lot of NFL people walking around there. I think what the Bears are doing with their staff right now is encouraging, especially from a quarterback sense.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, like I mean, you and I knew this during the original coordinator search that when we talked to people, Shane Waldron was the one that kind of got high marks, and yeah, he's building the staff, and but like I also keep coming back to this too, like you need to have the right match, right? But it's still like you have to find the right quarterback, and they could have the greatest staff ever, and if they pick the wrong guy, even the best coaches might not be able to make that work.
Yeah. Jimmy's and Joe's, not X's and O's.
Yep, that's what Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio used to teach us.
Yes. Yes. Let's talk about a Jimmy and Joe. Jackson, Powers, Johnson.
JPJ.
Getting a lot of buzz down there. Maybe the best center in the draft from Oregon. What are you seeing?
He's massive. He's almost 6'3", 334 pounds. So way bigger than the Bears prefer for their O lineman. I asked him about, getting, moved, like how
Yeah,
does
but
he
can he
move in
move?
space?
Yeah.
And he says he loves it. He goes, I wish they gave me the ball. Now again, what do you expect the guy to say? I understand that, but I liked the way he had fun with the question, and he is one of those guys. Like I'm curious to see like some of his athletic scores. I mean, the problem is, and we talked about this with Dane last week, right? There's just kind of this dead zone for the Bears right now in the draft. And he's probably in that zone. Like they don't pick between what 9 and whatever it is, 60, 73,
Yes. There's a lot of picks in between there.
right?
50 something.
So, and he's probably in there. But right now he's the guy. I mean, I watched him on the first day of practice in a one-on-one, just put a guy into the turf. And he said like he likes to finish, and we know how much that's important to Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus. So yeah, the center class will be interesting because the other thing too is we also have to remind ourselves that it's still the center position. So he might not get picked that high, even though he's the one that we're talking about a
But we've
lot.
seen a couple go late first round sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Which
Some
is
good ones.
that could be the area for him. And we also see teams trade up on the top of the bottom of the first. But yeah, he's been talking about. I was just kind of like taken aback by how big he is. Incredibly strong. So for these guys, these offensive linemen, if they're going to be in the Bears' radar, how do they move? So much of that is yes, you need to have the strength and power. Because Darnell Wright is massive, but he can move like a basketball player. He's
Yeah.
just like this insanely good athlete. But yeah, Jackson Powers Johnson, he's definitely living up to the billing this week.
How much is Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham? Like, how much are you seeing them around the offensive lineman?
Yeah, on Tuesday, I definitely saw them kind of in the trenches drills. Now they're also probably watching the edge rushers. They're looking for 3 techniques like they always are. That's where they found Zach Pickens there last year, in addition to, of course, Darnell Wright. So they're watching those trenches drills. So I feel like I haven't seen them maybe as on top of everything as it was noticeable last year. Maybe part of that was Luke Getsy's role. It was just like it seemed like a Bears run Senior Bowl in a way. But yeah, no, they were down there watching it.
What is Jim Dre saying about the offensive lineman?
I've not talked to Jim Dre yet this week.
Oh, today? Maybe?
Uh, we'll see. But I talked to the offensive lineman about Jim Dre.
Yes. Yeah. You teased that already. You can't tease it twice. One tease
Yeah.
only. Okay. When's that coming out?
That's out. People
It's
can read
out?
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Most
saw
of
that. Yeah.
most of them are like, they said to me, they go, I can't believe he's a tight ends coach. Like they were really impressed by the way he taught technique and um, offensive line scheme. Like they were kind of surprised that that's not his general job.
Yeah. Well, he's a lot of time with Chris Morgan.
Yep.
Come together for that run game. Latu, the UCLA defensive end. Lots of clips coming from him. One that he even lost. I want to say it was against in Oklahoma offensive tackle. I could be wrong. But he's one of the headliners there. Are you seeing top 10 pick in him?
I mean, he's got like, he's big, he's athletic. You watch him kind of like rip through guys. It was very impressive in some of these one-on-ones. Um, yeah, you can like there's a difference between him and the other edge rushers. Like he pops more, which he should. He might be the top drafted guy here. Uh, I asked him yesterday. I just think it's a unique situation where the number one thing impacting his draft stock is completely out of his control.
Yeah.
Like it's just going to be what team doctors discover or find out or decide after they do their own medicals on him. That's it. And it's just a weird spot for a guy to be in. He's done everything right on the field. I mean, the numbers of UCLA are eye popping. He's doing great out here. It seems like someone's going to do well in the interview process. It's just going to be how comfortable teams are with the longevity. He's done it for 2 years. Should we give a little background for people that don't know?
Yeah,
That,
I was about to say he's an
go ahead.
older prospect because he missed a year and a half, 2 years because of a slipped disc that emerged in obviously his back. He started off at Washington. I think he played rugby. There's a lot of things that happened. Obviously, got healthy, came back, and became a superstar at UCLA.
And the Washington team doctors told him you shouldn't play football ever again. And he decided to play, and UCLA gave him a shot, and their doctors were comfortable letting him play, and it's been pretty good. But team is going to be taking a risk there. So but from just a pure talent and pure production and size, it's like, yeah, you can see it.
For as much as we talk about the first pick, like the number 9 pick is still it's a top 10 pick.
It's crazy that we don't we would be having podcasts for months and mock drafts news all about the number 9 pick.
Top 10 pick.
I mean, we did it last
pick.
year after they traded it.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
like we went through all those guys, and we're so understandably focused on number 1, but at number 9, I mean, you should get a really good player.
Yeah, to me, the conversation for that pick is pass rusher or receiver. Deeper receiver class, especially in the first couple rounds. So maybe there's more value in taking that pass rusher there, like Latu. Maybe you take a swing on him because of how thin of that position, just in the high end players, right? At least that's the way it looks right now, where you wait on the receiver. But there's some darn good receivers there for number 9. I wanted to ask you about some of the other receivers. Obviously, the superstars aren't there. Marvin Harrison Jr. is not a Mobile, but there's some intriguing late day 2 guys. I think maybe a lot of second rounders there. Like, who's creating the most buzz? Like, I've seen Ladd McConkey highlights. I've seen Roman Wilson highlights. Is it just those 2? Like, who else is making a name for themselves down there?
Yeah, I think Roman Wilson's done really well. I think also
I love him as a slot receiver.
And he was on everyone's radar. Tez Walker from North Carolina had a couple highlight reel plays. I came in here with my eyes kind of, 17, Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina, who Dane talked to us about last week. I kind of wanted to watch him. I thought he had a really nice out route yesterday, high point to the pass. I think he didn't come in he came in at, let me look this up. He came in at 6'1". I think in South Carolina, he was listed at 6'3". It's a bit of a difference.
It's like what high schools do.
Right. So, but 6'1", I mean, still, still somebody that could that could be part of your receiving core. The guy whose number I wrote down yesterday the most, and I didn't know who he was until I got here, was Jaquan Jackson out of Tulane. So he's 5'9", 190. Short arms, not big hands or anything, but like just was catching everything. A diving catch out of bounds is one of the highlight plays of the day. And that's one of those great things where I kept writing him down, and then I get home and check to see what Dane had, and Dane also had down. So I'm like, okay, good. I wasn't just making that up. If Dane sees it, then I'm in the clear.
You look at what like the Seahawks have done, at least with the receiving core. The receiver is going to be such an important position to address. I don't know how much money they're going to want to spend on it, truthfully. So you look at the number 9 pick. They obviously have selected 2 wide receivers in back-to-back years in the mid rounds. I don't think they're giving up on Tyler Scott anytime soon. But Shane Waldron's evaluations, like there's a whole new offensive staff that's going to be evaluating those positions. Of course, DJ Moore is going to look good. He produces with everybody, every OC, every quarterback. But like, what do you want to pair with him? Do you need a larger body like DK Metcalf, or do you need a super slot receiver like a Roman Wilson or potentially a Ladd McConkey who just creates separation with their amazing route running? Like, it's an interesting conversation. Or both. Yeah, they're fast too.
Well, because I kind of like the big body idea, especially if you're going to have a rookie quarterback, just to have that big target, like somebody that who's got that big catch radius. Now, not that slot guys don't. I mean, DJ Moore is an insane catch radius, and he's not a big guy. But I kind of like the idea of having that big target just to make things a little bit easier for a rookie quarterback. But you could also make the argument if your really good slot guy is able to get open on these crossers or different routes over the middle of the field, that's also going to be a great thing for a rookie quarterback. So right. I mean, I'm curious to see where Tyler Scott goes. Like, what does his second year look like? What's his ceiling? Because if you want to argue that there's a lot more there, then maybe he's a big part of this thing. But you could also say, they need more speed and they need somebody else who could separate.
You just see the route running of, again, Roman Wilson and McConkey. You're like, oh, let's not overrate like pure speed and just look at the separation and the moves they have like at the top of their stem to create that separation. That sometimes is more rare.
Breaking news.
What do we got?
The Washington Commanders have found their new head coach.
Who?
Dan Quinn.
Wow, he's back. Yeah. How about, like, here's a little tangent. This amazing, unbelievable head coaching class. Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, Jim Harbaugh. I know Jim Harbaugh got a job, but
Pete Carroll.
I mean, come on. Did talk about like overblown storylines. Bill Belichick didn't get a job. Mike Vrabel didn't get a job. Pete Carroll is working somewhere in Seattle now. Like, kind of crazy.
John Fox was available too.
No, he wasn't. Not really.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you on that. I think that, look, you and I both know this. This is an ego-driven business, and you got to feel really comfortable to bring one of those guys in. And at least this hiring cycle, nobody was.
No teams that, like, look at the Falcons. I thought for sure, and that seems to be the case too, based on some of the reporting, that Arthur Blank was willing to give him everything, but he was talked out of it by his own GM and his own front office.
It's right. Like what Mike McDonald has done is incredible. And it's a great story. I'm excited to see what he does in Seattle. But who's running that team? John Schneider. Right? Like, so that, it's interesting.
A lot of defensive coaches have gotten head coach jobs, by the way.
The Bears are trendsetters, always have been.
Yeah. Before I ask you about quarterbacks down there, any other players, especially maybe defense, any 3 techniques that have caught your eye?
Dane said this was not a great 3 tech. Pulling out the old notebook here, John. See, our friends on YouTube can see this research I got here. You know, the D lineman who actually had the best day on Wednesday was Ohio State's. Where's my guy at here? Let me make sure this is good radio here. Michael Hall, thank you. Michael Hall, Ohio State D lineman, 6'2", 3 280 pounds, 33-inch arms. He had a good day. 11-11, he had a sack. You know, he was just kind of the guy that, you're just writing, because I don't know who these guys are off the top of my head. I'm just writing down numbers. 51, that was his number. So that was the guy that stood out. I don't know if he's on Bears' radar, if he's a fit anywhere in their scheme. But in terms of defensive guys, I'm telling you, Latu was probably the guy. Latu was probably the edge rusher that, now granted, I was probably, coming in with my eye on him, but he stood out the most. And I do think too, as we get deeper in this, I want to talk safeties more, especially if the Bears have a decision coming up at some point.
Eddie Jackson.
Right. That's such a hard position in this setting to get a good sense of. It's an all-star game setting, right? And safety is such an interesting position because, as you know, as a defensive backs coach, Coach Jahns, so much about safety is instincts. And you talk to coaches, and that's tape, that's talking to their coaches, right? Like all-star game settings are kind of tough. Now, we'll be looking at the relative athletic scores. We know how much the Bears value that. We'll be looking at guys who are big and long and fast if we're going to be looking at that safety position. But that doesn't measure instincts, and that's going to be a very interesting position if it's something the Bears need to fill.
And certain amounts of physicality can't really be measured in a setting where they're not tackling again, right? I know some of those one-on-ones have been intense, but
yeah, there've been a few tackles here and there, but no, this is, to me, it's wide receivers, corners, trenches, but you don't learn it. Well, I was gonna say you don't learn it, but talk about the running backs. But Tyjae Spears came out here last year and was sensational, and you could and we saw his draft stock go up certainly. So you can make a name for yourself as a running back, but none of the guys here. I know we've talked about you're big on the running back train for the Bears.
yeah.
I can give you a name here. I got a couple running backs in my notes. Let's see here. There was the Georgia kid. I don't like calling them kids.
You sound like a coach and a scout there.
I know. Diane Edwards. I thought he was pretty impressive. Shifty. I wrote in my notes. Shifty. It's crazy that no team has hired me to just be a scout.
You know what? This is gonna sound bad, and my friends in the league, if they hear it, like over the years, like collecting information from scouts, they get it wrong too, just as much as we get things wrong, and we may get certain things right over them. You know, sometimes there's an information overkill.
Yep.
I got to give them a hard time sometimes. Hey, remember like that guy? You know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say any names because it might give certain contacts away. But funny stuff. One of Dane's storylines for the Senior Bowl was the quarterbacks, and so far not so good. Just in terms of that second tier, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. I thought that maybe one would stand out in some shape or form, and nothing.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, so it's weird that the American team, at least yesterday's practice, so much of their offense in 11-11 was play action stuff to running backs and tight ends. Like there were very few throws downfield. And it's bummed because like those are the wide receivers I was most looking forward to watching. So it was hard to get a great gauge on the quarterback. I mean, Joe Millen could throw the heck out of the ball. That's evident. There was one beautiful deep ball by Michael Penix on the first day. They did. We've seen the Bears do this where they end practice with a one-on-one, which is kind of fun. And Penix put a ball in the bucket. It's pretty nice. But yeah, I mean, there have not been like oohs and ahs to the quarterbacks that are here.
Yeah. I'm just thinking back to my own history covering it. Like I remember the buzz that Jimmy Garoppolo kind of created down there with his release and his mechanics. How he went from I think the East West Shrine game to a late invitation to the Senior Bowl, developed into a second round pick. I think it was the same year Derek Carr had a really good year. Again, didn't become a first rounder, but I believe he was the first pick of one of the first picks of that second round of his draft year. Jordan Love, didn't Jordan Love have a pretty good Senior Bowl week?
Yeah, I
He had
wasn't
a very
at
good Senior Bowl game.
right. I was at a Senior Bowl. Oh, it's funny. I remember Josh Allen's Senior Bowl being like, this guy's passes are going all over the field, but at 100 miles an hour. And he's built like a, freight train. But I just remember like being like, whoa, this guy's all over the place. Look at him now. But that was
Yeah.
also what he was like as a rookie.
But he was all over the place
Yeah.
in a couple of years. But you saw the natural talent. You do see like the windy days in Mobile when the balls aren't when the quarterbacks have their throws and they can't cut through the wind. I always feel that like that's an important trait. Like
Yeah, we've seen
obviously,
we've seen a little bit of that. There have been a couple deep balls that just some of these guys just haven't had the arms for that. As I said, Milton's got a cannon. These guys Rattler can throw it. But yeah, and again, part of it is just we haven't the one-on-ones are let it rip, but like when they get into team drills, we just haven't seen a whole lot of deep patterns. Maybe we should talk to Carrie Joseph about that. Carrie, let him rip.
yeah, let it go. Let it go. All right, man. Have fun. Where's dinner tonight?
Oh, I'm coming home today.
You're coming home.
Coming home. It's
The
been enough Mobile for me.
the
If
the
you can't
late
hear it in my voice.
is that the late direct flight?
Yeah.
The one and only.
I'm coming out of Pensacola.
Oh, got a little drive. So I'll let you go. I'll let you go. Thanks, man. Safe travels. Check out your stuff on theathletic.com. I think Adam Hoge, have to give him this plug. He has his little big board. I like calling it that. His little big board of
I got a
100 players.
bone. I got a bone to pick with Adam Hoge.
Oh, do it. Yes, this is the spot.
I'm recording the Hoge and Jahns podcast, and mid-recording, I get an email with Hoge's big board.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to mess with my rhythm here.
Well, we got a big episode tomorrow. Today's Thursday. We're going through our defensive tiers tomorrow. If you missed our offensive tiers with Josh Lucas, that's on YouTube. That's wherever you get your podcasts. It's out there. Just great stuff going through the roster. Kind of an exercise that we've kind of always done in passing. It's kind of unique to talk it through for like an hour and a half, like teams actually do for 2 to 3 hours. And I'm interested to see what Shane Waldron has to think about a lot of these offensive players. That's for more down the line. But yeah, Hoge's got his big board out, allchgo.com. Kevin's got some great stuff coming on theathletic.com this week, next week. I'll have some stuff next week as well. That's it. Follow us on hoganjohns.com. Get our stuff from Obvious Shirts. And that's it. Hit that like button on YouTube. Subscribe. Kev, safe travels, my friend.
See ya.
It's my line. See ya.